Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Declare that carried. Thank you.
Councillor
Brewer.
Mr. Chairman, just clarification, the children will be named, won't they? We're able to include that. I think it's important given their first foray into public duty today.
Okay, thank you.
Look back at the minutes.
They can Google themselves.
Right, the next presentation is from Julian Bartram.
Hello, good morning everybody. I, as a child, like these fine young children who have come here this morning, was very badly affected by glyphosate, and from the ages of 0 to 7 my symptoms were worse than ever. And my mother fought for this 20 years ago, and she won that battle, amongst many other people who were very concerned about it at the time, and they stopped using glyphosate. But now, we're seeing the biggest rollout of chemicals that Auckland has ever seen. So, at the moment, I'm operating a small jewellery business, and coming in here to talk about this is actually the last thing that I want to do. I'd much prefer to be spending my time contributing to the economy, building the business. But I'm here because I've put Aucklanders' health as my priority, because without good health, what can we achieve? And I'd like for you all to consider that as you make your decisions throughout the day. For the last 4 weeks, I've been on the street gathering petitions for a stop of the use of these chemicals on the streets. And I've been in the most common of places around my own neighbourhood in Ellerslie, outside New World and Food Towns, with a little sign saying, "Stop the council spraying our streets with toxic chemicals." So I've been able to get a very broad perspective of how Aucklanders think about this issue, and they are ropeable about this. Last weekend, a bunch of people in the community, including myself, gathered 870 signatures. In the last 4 weeks, these are all the signatures that I've gathered. And I could spend as much time as I like gathering signatures, because everybody wants to sign it. People are very happy to sign it. But I don't think that's a good use of my time, actually. And Georgina Blackmore has already presented 3,700 signatures. In the course of my lifetime, 24,500 signatures have been gathered on this exact same topic. And in Europe, 1.5 million signatures collected to stop the use of glyphosate. In New Zealand, there are 10 petitions running throughout the country asking for a ban on glyphosate, and in the UK there are 120. Today I'd like to invite each one of you to join me on a Sunday and gather signatures and see what the people of Auckland really feel about this. These are people just doing their shopping, going about their business, and you'll be surprised at the amount of concerns that we hear from the people who come up. It's staggering. The health concerns that they've gone through, and that they attribute to the use of to chemicals and to the glyphosate that they're being sprayed with. The amount of people who are on the no spray register, who say that their properties are continually sprayed with Roundup. One man said his honey supplier is unable to certify his product as organic because the amount of glyphosate that's sprayed throughout the Waitakeris. This is Manuka honey. The Manuka trees are not sprayed with Roundup. It's just from the environment that they're growing in, spray drift. And the amount of mothers who find themselves on the street pushing their pram down the road and find themselves encountering a spray truck and having to make a run for it. One lady said that she walked around the corner and walked straight into a spray drift. This is actually an emergency. This is not the time to review the weed management policy. This is the time to stop spraying glyphosate. and then you can decide to review the weed management policy afterwards. And if you decide to review the weed management policy, then it needs to be done with full public involvement every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Thank you very much, Julian, and thank you for coming along and taking time out to share your concerns on behalf of the community. My question is this. Clearly the experts are arguing about the physical impacts or otherwise on glyphosate. But would you agree that apart from the physical impacts...
Are you referring to our health? The physical impacts on our health?
On health,
yes,
yes, and well-being. There is also a sense of anxiety in the community about chemical spraying, glyphosate in particular, and that anxiety is increasing.
Absolutely. I don't think it's isolated solely to anxiety. I think there are many tangible effects that that many doctors and scientists are actually detecting, and that's what's caused our anxiety. Yes, you're absolutely right.
I'm not in any way challenging that the anxiety is not based on fact, but there is an anxiety as well over and above any physical effect.
Well, actually,
Councillor Lee,
a lot of...
can you ask? You've had your one question.
Yes.
I'll let you have asked one more, but it's not a...
I just want some clarity.
It's
Sorry.
not a dialogue.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise you only allowed to ask one. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
So, a lot of people who come to the stand to inquire what's the concern are actually still under the misconception with the belief that we are still using steam and hot water or organic fatty acids, and they're very, very surprised to hear that it's being covertly laced with glyphosate to the quantities that are equal to Roundup. And when they hear about what's happened, they're very, very concerned. Yes, anxiety is increasing enormously, and the more the public becomes aware of what's going on, it's just going to get worse and worse. But I really don't want to have to stand out on the road, for as long as it takes until everybody's aware of it. I think enough people are already aware of it for us to stop it, and it's actually an emergency.
Thank you. Councillor Walker?
Yeah, just got a question based on the experience that you've got, obviously talking to people and getting their feedback. Would you say that if they're involved in some form of review, that they would expect that review to cover their consultation, their engagement, not just in what we say, which is the policy, but what we do, which is operational, because it is what we do on the ground in terms of how much we are applying.
Yes.
That matters.
That's right. So that's right. The public need to be involved in what's implemented, not in the review. Or is that what you? I mean, it needs
Yes.
to be. It needs to be. I mean, there's no point in doing a review if it's not going to be implemented. We haven't even implemented the one that we've got.
Yeah, why are we
Thank
spending
you.
all this money?
No other questions? I'll now move that we receive the presentation on the approval of the scope of the weed management policy review by Mr. Julian Bartram.
Could I also
Seconded
ask
by-
that my notes are tabled?
Yeah, seconded by Councillor Lee. And we will, together with that part of the presentation, and the Secretary will come and pick them up right now. I'll put that motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Declare that carried. Now we have Bill Henderson of the Waitakere Rangers Local Board, who's here to talk on this subject. Neil? Yep. And I've asked that the Mangere Board Chair, Lydia Sassini, will put your presentation on when we get to the item on the Maori language policy. Thank you.
Just open up and let you know.
Oh, we have two presentations. Hello.
Thanks very much, Councillor Wood, for allowing us to come and present today. Saffron Toms is here representing the local board because she has the environment portfolio, but I wanted to support her, so I'll be leaving most of the talking to her. In a nutshell, I'd just like to say I don't see any reason why we should be doing a review of the policy. I feel the issues are around implementation.
Thank you. And we received the letter from Saffron and the chair, Sandra Coney. I think all councillors got that letter, did you? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Saffron. Thank you.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you, Councillor Wood, for having us to speak. Thank you, councillors, for giving us a chance to speak to this motion. So as you all know, the Waitakere Ranges Local Board is very passionate about weed control, and we spend a significant amount of our own local-driven initiative money on the control of weeds in our area. But we're also really concerned for the health of our community. Some examples of the things that we've spent money on are a pilot program to try to get rid of climbing asparagus in our area, because that's one of many ecological weeds which are toxic to our native flora and fauna. We believe that the current weed management policy is a very good policy and it should not be reviewed. The implementation is the problem, and that's our position. We think that the implementation of the review should be, of the policy itself, should be the only thing under review, and the energy should be put towards making sure that that policy is implemented properly. Whether or not that in itself needs much of a review, I don't think it's under dispute. I think that the policy itself has not been implemented according to it. And I think the other thing about the policy is our chair, Sandra Coney, chaired the committee which oversaw the drafting of that policy, and it was a very long process, and it involved a lot of community consultation with experts, and many of the people from the community that you see in this room had a really good feed into that policy. So the council's the decision to review the policy, which you're about to decide on today, we believe is an error in terms of what the community is seeking. Just yesterday, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the Glen Eden Transition Towns group to manage a part of their cycleway in a spray-free way. We believe that this is entirely in the same spirit as the weed management policy and also the council's new position for empowered communities. We hope that many other communities will be able to feed in and take responsibility and take some control over their own natural areas like this. So the weed management policy has, I believe, 3 objectives which work to what are the same objectives of the people from the community that we see behind us. There's an objective to investigate alternative methods to spray. There's an objective to always pay heed to the health impacts and reduce chemical sprays. And there's another one, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but they're there. So our position really is very strongly to review the implementation of the policy and not the policy itself. We've also spent considerable effort. We collaborated with the Forest and Bird Waitakere to produce a weed poster which illustrated which were the ecological weeds in our area and how to control them. We deliberately put the mechanical methods of control at the top of the list, which we believe also complies with the management policy. And that poster was received very well by our communities, but also by local boards across the council and staff that work in the weed control area. So there's a whole raft of things that we can do to help reduce weeds, as particularly ecological weeds. There's also different ways of managing parks. We can have wildflower meadows, we can have less control, mechanical control, and obviously empowering communities to control their places in the way that they would like. And that's a really powerful thing too, because then people can begin to understand the effects of ecological weeds and the importance of controlling them on their own property. So not just on council property, the effects of that go into their own property, which then in turn can help us control our own weeds, our weeds on the public property. So we're concerned that the response to community pressure and concern for the use of glyphosate has been that this response would be an error, given that the concern is for the use of glyphosate. We ask that the council uphold the policy and push for better implementation of it.